Welcome to Resistance Live. Since 2017, Resistance Live has been the go-to home for political and legal news and analysis through a decidedly progressive activist lens. I'm your host, Elizabeth Cronise McLaughlin. I'm a former Wall Street and human rights lawyer, a lifelong organizer, and a leadership and impact consultant for all those seeking to lead big progressive change in these incredibly challenging times. To get bonus broadcasts, ask questions, and more, don't forget to become a paid subscriber to the show at patreon.com/resistancelive. And to learn more about what we do to help progressive leaders everywhere, check out GaiaLeadershipProject.com. And now, here's today's show. Well. Today's actually a good news day, you guys. I mean, there's some bad news, but there's a lot of good news today. And one of the things that I just have to kind of keep pointing out to everybody is that there is this funny funnel thing happening on social media right now where the doomerism seems to be getting a lot more airtime than the good news of what's happening. And I just have to continue to remind you guys, there are chips coming off the foundation of MAGA at every turn right now. And we've got to stay focused on it and keep pressing on those. So one of the big ones today, among many, like this is going to be a fun broadcast today. One of the good news bits today, among many, is that articles of impeachment have been filed against RFK Jr. They have been filed by Representative Haley Stevens, who is at the moment also running for the Senate. Now, I'm going to just say this to begin with, there are some extra political things going on behind the scenes in this, but I will just tell you that I actually don't care. One of the things that, I'll tell you what they are, but I don't care. One of the things that I think is really critical right now is that we need Democrats who are willing to stand up and defy Democratic Party leadership. We need Democrats who are actually willing to do brave things to push back against this administration. So Haley Stevens filed articles of impeachment this morning, and essentially they accuse RFK Jr. of high crimes and misdemeanors for essentially destroying public health. There are very specific allegations in this concerning his work to undermine public health of all Americans. They include things like canceling, and this number is crazy, $8.9 billion in federal grants for medical research. $8.9 billion. Which, by the way, is medical research that all of us need and could have used. In addition to that, there are things about delaying decision-making about key drugs, delaying, the rollout of particular elements of public health research that would have been supportive. And that's leaving aside everything that he's done at the CDC and the FDA. So this is a really important act. Now, do we think it's going to go anywhere? Well, there are big questions about this because right now, Angus King, who many of you know, independent senator who caucuses with the Democrats, is actually introducing something in the Senate that is designed to essentially publicly sanction RFK Jr. for his efforts. That is an action without teeth. The real question now is whether or not these articles of impeachment are going to get through committee and onto the floor. And we all know where Hakeem Jeffries has been on all this stuff. As recently as last week, he was saying that he wasn't going to be in favor of impeaching Pete Hegseth because he, quote unquote, thought it was going nowhere. I'm going to remind you all that a lot of people thought that the Epstein Files Transparency Act was going nowhere a couple of weeks ago. And lo and behold, it passed the House and the Senate by an almost unanimous vote. So this is a place where you really need to use your voice today. All know I come on here, I try to give you things that you can do today to actually really make a difference. Please call your rep. And frankly, I don't care if your representative is MAGA. This is another place where we need to make phone calls demanding accountability for RFK Jr.'s destruction of public health. The things that he has done are not small. By the way, like many of you saw late last week, there was a vote that ended the recommendation that babies be given the hepatitis B vaccine. That literally means that newborn babies are going to die or be permanently disabled because of that recommendation. Now, certain states have said they're going to override that. Their recommendations are going to remain what they were. But that's just one of many, many examples of the absolute disgusting eradication of public health by RFK Jr. And we can all make a difference here by making those phone calls. Your MAGA rep may not like to hear it. You should tie up their phone lines anyway, because frankly, the more their office staff hears from us about these issues, the more likely it's going to be that it filters up into their own offices. All right. Now, for the background on this, Haley Stevens, as I mentioned, is running for governor in Michigan. She is at the moment being in the primary with two other significant political figures, both of whom are further to the left than Haley Stevens. They include Mallory McMorrow, who many of you know and love, and also Abdul El Sayed, who is another very progressive left-leaning candidate. Some people this morning are speculating that Haley Stevens introduced these articles of impeachment to give herself a little bit of a leg inside the Senate race. Again, I'm just going to say it. I do not care. I do not care. I think that at this point, anything that we can do that will push accountability for this administration matters. And if she's got an additional desire to make a mark for herself in this Senate race, so be it. But frankly, she's got more balls right now than most of the Democratic Party leadership when it comes to introducing these articles of impeachment against RFK. And I'm going to do nothing but applaud that. All right. So it is what it is. I mean, thank the God somebody's standing up and doing it. Make your phone calls today. Ask for this to be processed in committee, voted on in committee, brought to the floor of the House for the Democratic Party to throw their weight behind it. And, if you have a Democratic Party rep, ask your rep what their position is on this and demand that they endorse it. All right. Really important. I swear to God, again, you all know if you've been here for a while that I have a number of figures against whom I very much wish some form of accountability will come, meaning judicial accountability, impeachment, removal, shunning from all public society. And RFK Jr. is very close to the top of that list. The actions that he has taken are just appalling, literally are costing lives right now. And I'll just say one other thing. I haven't talked about this much, but back when all the anti-vax stuff started to get some legs, my kids were babies. This was almost 15 years ago now. And there was a pocket of New York City that followed a lot of this anti-vax stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of this bled into the wellness communities through RFK Jr. and other polarizing figures who were, advocating for things that literally there was no scientific evidence for. I did know people who literally did not vaccinate their children for anything inside my yoga studio, for instance. Well, lo and behold, when my kids were little, I caught whooping cough. And I was vaccinated for it as a child, but I caught it because, of course, if you're exposed to it as an adult, even though you think it's been wiped out, you can get it. And it was a miserable experience. We're talking a month of really serious, awful illness. And when I was diagnosed, I was shocked. And then what I learned was that there was a pocket inside of, that had been noted inside my neighborhood, an outbreak of whooping cough that had originated in a group of unvaccinated children. So now I want you all to kind of imagine that being taken out writ large 15 years later on the infants and toddlers of America. It is awful. Awful. And the accountability for that belongs with RFK Jr. at this moment and the recommendations or not lack of them coming out of the CDC. And that's not even including the massive measles outbreak in Texas. We need accountability. It's really, really important. So make your voices heard on this issue today. It matters a lot. And I am grateful to Haley Stevens, whatever her motivation for filing these articles of impeachment. Okay, we had some special election results last night. Oh my goodness, y'all. When I told you that today was going to be a really good celebratory day, I got to tell you, there's a lot of positive signs out there right now in the context of how the electorate is tilting. So we have two things to talk about. The first is the mayoral election in Miami, where for the first time in 30 years, Miami elected a Democratic mayor last night, and not just by a smidge, by 20 percentage points. Her opponent was a Republican endorsed by Ron DeSantis, who said that he was in favor of the actions being carried out by ICE. And, as of last night, Eileen Higgins has wiped the floor with the MAGA candidate in Miami. I also am just going to point out to all of you that the Trump campaign did a number on Miami's Latino community during the 2024 election by claiming that voting for Kamala was a vote for socialists like Fidel Castro. Clearly, what we have seen in this window of time between last November and now is a huge awakening among the population of Miami about what's really going on. And that's very good news. I mean, this is Florida, right? Now, you all know Florida used to be a swing state. I mean, that's how the whole 2000 election ended up in the shitstorm that it was, being resolved by the Supreme Court unfairly, I might add. But I'm not going to claim Florida's back in purple territory. That's a little bit of an ambitious statement, but I got to say that the signs out of Miami right now are very, very good. In addition to that, last night in Georgia, man, you guys, again, you got to read the tea leaves on these things, because this is not the first set of special elections that we've had this year where all the signs are indicating that people are disgusted with the Trump regime. All right. So last night in Georgia State District 121, there was an election that in a district that is like ruby red. Okay. This is a district that went for Trump by 12 points last year. And Eric Geisler, who was the candidate who won last night, lost this same seat last year by 22 points. Last night, he won. Granted, it was only by a small percentage, like maybe like 1% to 2%, somewhere in that range. But given that last year he lost the exact same seat by 22 points, this is an incredible flip. And again, this is a district that has been solidly conservative, very red for a long time, and is now being represented by a Democrat. Again, I got to tell you, nobody should get comfortable. Everybody's going to have to work their asses off in the midterms in 2026. You all should start thinking right now about what that's going to look like for you, what time and energy you're going to invest, and for what campaigns. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't understand how the Republicans aren't just completely quaking in their boots. The results of each of these elections are indicating in no uncertain terms that there is no candidate in a district that Trump won by less than 15 points who is safe right now. None. And I'm going to remind you, every member of the House of Representatives is up for election in 2026. Every single one. A third of the Senate. We have huge inroads to be made right now in the direction of actually flipping the House and taking back the Senate. And that work is mandatory. All right. We have to talk about another looming election, which is that I'm so thrilled about this one, you guys. I can't even tell you. Brad Lander, who you all know was like second in the New York mayoral primary, who is a deep progressive, very aligned with Zohran Mamdani. Actually, many of my friends in New York City, I was out in New York City on Sunday night, and one of them actually said to me, you know, I was more in favor of Lander than I was Mamdani. I love Mamdani, but I really want to see Lander run for the House or the Senate. She got her wish. So Brad Lander is running for Dan Goldman's seat. And many of you know that Dan Goldman, even though he is a Democrat, has actually been very centrist, in some cases kind of like center right on his positionality, particularly when it comes to issues related to Gaza and Israel, and also on various issues related to Trump's policies. This is a primary that needs to happen. And I got to tell you, Brad Lander has name recognition. He's got an anchor in Manhattan. He's got anchors in Brooklyn. And I'm really excited about this race. Like, I'm a huge fan of Lander. He's done a great job on behalf of the people of New York City as the controller. And I think this is a fantastic run. So this is absolutely one to watch. Okay, in other good news, I told you, like, it's a good day. About an hour ago, a federal court in California ordered that Trump's federalization of the California National Guard in Los Angeles cannot be re-upped, meaning that Trump's federalized National Guard troops must leave Los Angeles now. The order has been stayed until Monday in anticipation of an appeal. But at this point, this is an incredibly strong opinion, by the way. I read the first few pages of it. This is a judge who basically said the DOJ doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. The California National Guard, as federalized by Donald Trump and as requested by Gavin Newsom, must leave Los Angeles. So, and this is in part because Trump has tried to extend the amount of time that the National Guard is federalized there, which he cannot legally do. All right. So this is really good. And granted, they are going to try to appeal it to the Ninth Circuit, which is pretty uniformly considered to be the most progressive circuit in the country. I don't think he's going to get very far there. But again, like, great ruling, great decision, progress being made at every turn. All right. Couple of like not so great things that we should talk about. There is a new set of regulations regarding visitors from the EU and the UK that dropped yesterday on immigration that is now requiring, just for visits, for visas, that people have 5 years of their social media posts examined. They indicate their initial country of origin. They identify all their family members and where they were born. It's like crazy, crazy shit. And I'm just going to kind of mention to everybody that I'm not sure this one is going to stick. Again, I can see lots of ways in which this could be subject to a legal challenge in court, much like the Muslim ban. They could effectively result in an injunction. So don't assume that this is actually going to go into place. I'm also just going to point out, we have the World Cup coming here. We have the Olympics coming here. I have literally no idea how they plan, if they're even thinking this far ahead, to be able to host, like people from more than 100 foreign countries here under these kind of regulations, let alone the total ban on arrivals that have been issued against some Middle Eastern countries at this point. I don't see how it's going to fly or work. So I think we have to wait and see what happens with that from the standpoint of court developments. It, by the way, is fear-mongering. It's also very anti-tourism, and the potential economic impacts of that to the country are grave. So, I don't know that this one is actually necessarily going to land. And this is, again, a reminder for all of you that some of what they're doing is to try to terrify people, right? Even if they know that it's not actually going to come to pass, they want people scared, right? They want people afraid. They want people like you and me afraid to post on social media against the regime. Because, by the way, if they're going to check the social media of other people coming into the country, you can be damn sure that they're going to check yours. So again, this is all being done from the standpoint of trying to scare people into self-policing because they do not have the manpower to do it themselves. All right. One other thing I just want to mention, because people were very much in an uproar about this morning on the Patreon feed. Reminder, if you want to ask me questions and have me answer them in writing or on the air, you can become a subscriber at patreon.com for as little as $5 a month. We are running until the end of this year a 20% off annual subscriptions bonus using the code fall2025. So if you want to head on over to patreon.com/resistancelive and become one of our subscribers, we would love to have you. It's a great community over there. Somebody this morning, a number of people this morning were very wound up about people being kidnapped by ICE at their citizenship ceremonies at Faneuil Hall in Boston. I just have to point out to all of you, not that it's not outrageous, but this has actually been happening all over the country since Trump took office. This is not the first time and not the first report of people showing up for their final interviews for citizenship, showing up for their final interviews for green cards and being picked up and deported. So one of the things that I just want people to be mindful of here is that, yes, there is an enormous amount of bad actions, fascist actions being taken by this regime in relation to immigrants. In every way possible that they can imagine, they are enacting incredibly fascist policies. And also be very mindful of the kinds of reporting that reads like clickbait, that is designed to drive your outrage about something that, by the way, has been happening for like the last 11 months. And that's not to say it's not outrageous, and it's not to say that it shouldn't end, but it's also like far from the first time. All right. And again, this is a reason why immigration defense, sending your dollars to immigration legal defense funds, making sure that you are showing up for your friends and neighbors is really important right now. I had a couple people on social media, by the way, over the last couple of days. It's always fun when this happens. Come at me with like, local action doesn't matter. Nothing's going to stop this regime unless it's huge and splashy and big. And my viewpoint on that, frankly, is that anything that we can do right now locally to help protect our neighbors, anything you can do locally right now to stop local police forces from collaborating with ICE by reaching agreements with them. More on my Blue Sky about this, by the way, this morning. Anything you can do that helps to create a line of defense between people who are immigrants and ICE, CBP, or even people who just like are being racially profiled for having brown skin or speaking with a Latino accent. Anything that you can do in that way literally saves lives. And frankly, I'm kind of at the place right now where my view is that every single one of these little actions matters. They amount in the end to revolutionary action around the country when they all come together. They raise awareness. They get people involved. They bring communities together. Nobody should be out there saying that community-based action is ineffective, because I'm going to tell you that, I know of instances where people have not been snatched by ICE in courthouses because members of the clergy or local community members showed up en masse to escort people in and out of court. That kind of work cannot happen if you are not willing to do the grind, day-to-day, unsexy work of local community organizing. It matters a lot. And if you understand the way in which regimes have been overthrown historically, it starts in small, community-based action, small cells of people resisting, moving in the same direction at the same time even if they are completely disconnected from one another. So it's critical. Like, nobody should be saying to you that it doesn't matter unless there's 14 million people protesting in front of the Supreme Court. Nobody should be saying to you that nothing's going to work but a general strike. We have things, as I said at the start of this broadcast, chipping away at this regime over and over and over again. And nobody knows what that domino is going to be that brings the whole thing down. So everybody needs to get to work. Like 100% get to work. Like, get to work where you live, get to work on a campaign, make some decisions about what you're willing to do with your time and your body and your energy. Make sure you're thinking about the 2026 midterms, but don't be afraid to work together with your neighbors to make local community action work. This coming weekend, I'm doing an event with all of my neighbors to create survival kits for the unhoused where we live. Like, these are small things that will make a huge difference right now. All right. So it's a good day in large part. Fantastic things happening against this regime, things that give me a lot of hope. And by the way, one thing I just need to point out to you all here is that if you are stuck in a doom scrolling cycle, if you are finding yourself sucked into social media in total despair, if you got that feeling in the pit of your stomach that all hope is lost, please log off. Because there is so much good happening out in the world that is not being amplified on social media. And things are a lot more optimistic than they look on your average platform. So take the time to be aware of the fact that your central nervous system is being hijacked for profit. Put down the phone and go out and do something good for your neighbors. Just trust me on this. This is what I did this past weekend in large part. It makes a huge difference in your outlook on what's actually happening in the world. And yes, some things that are happening are truly awful, but they are not invincible. The things that they are demanding should come to pass are not inevitable. And the boundary between that happening and like the future is us. So it's time to get to work. All right. That's it, my friends. I will be here tomorrow, regular time. Again, if you are not yet a subscriber to this channel, please hit subscribe below. Give this video a thumbs up. Drop me a comment. Do not forget to support this broadcast financially if it matters to you. I am not one of these people raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars in YouTube ad revenue. I depend on your subscriptions over on Patreon to keep this broadcast going and to pay my tech team behind the scenes. So please consider in this holiday season, if this broadcast has been meaningful to you, supported you this year, gives you hope, talks you off a ledge, heading over to patreon.com/resistancelive and becoming a subscriber. We're still one of the cheapest places on the internet for independent media. So lots of love to all of you. I will catch you all back here tomorrow at regular time. And thanks to all of you who are already out there doing good work and making a difference. I see you. You matter. I'm proud of you. And keep going. All right. I'll catch you all tomorrow, everybody. Bye. That's our show for today, folks. Thanks so much for being here at Resistance Live. To get more out of the show, including bonus broadcasts, the answers to all your most pressing political and legal questions, and way more, head on over to patreon.com/resistancelive and become a paid subscriber. And don't forget to hit subscribe here on your favorite podcasting platform to make sure that you never miss an episode. See you next time.